Good morning, good morning. This is Pigsy. I hope you're all safe and well. It's quite snowy in the UK. It's not a really problem. It's quite snowy. Well, it just started, this Siberian stuff. It's just getting a bit colder. Still too sunny though to really be any problem. It's not a harsh wind or anything. Just got to see what the end of the week brings. So yesterday in my mind I managed to debunk Flat Earth, because I've been watching different videos. I'm not out debunking it, it's just I don't agree with what I'm hearing, so naturally I'm doing my research. And the conjecture's good, because with the conjecture you can at least challenge what you believe, think about how things might work. A bit like I was going about gravity. One of the components is static electricity, and it seems to hold things in place at one level. And be careful with this brow of the hill. And there's forces that draw things together, which collectively operate at a similar frequency, I guess. So there's more than one type of energy, basically. So that's kind of where I concluded on that. But with the flat Earth, yesterday I was driving home and it already snows. The clouds were in the distance. The clouds were at the horizon. It's a massive cloud, and so it must have been like at least a mile high, and maybe it's 50 miles wide. I don't know. It took up the horizon. But it was a strip, and what I was looking at, a strip, I was thinking, well, if the cloud travels across the sky at a set elevation, the only time it changes elevation is due to temperature change, and extreme cold brings it down to Earth. Basically, you end up with fog. So if I'm looking at this cloud, therefore it should never meet the horizon if the world was flat, because it would have, because one of the things that's mentioned quite a bit is gravity doesn't exist, it's density, things just drop down is down, up is up. To be honest, it doesn't make any sense, because it's too simplistic, and it comes from a non-scientific mind. A mind that's not really that curious, it just reads things and then believes things. So, based on that theory of density, though I did mention about static, so they are hitting upon something. If what defines density is maybe the static electro frequencies, that's something it has that separates them out. So yeah, so cloud wouldn't meet the horizon. It's meeting the horizon because it's curling round with the sky, and the dome and flat Earth thing doesn't really work either, because there would be no wind. If you lived in a contained, I mean, you don't have to be a bloody genius there. I mean, you won't find any movement within something, being like a container. If there's no airflow, everything becomes stagnant inside it. It wouldn't make sense. It's a bit like saying I don't have any circulation. The blood doesn't travel around my body, it's just static there, and sometimes it's where you've got a heart that works. You can try to prove a debate that doesn't quite add up. So you can say, like, my heart may move, but it's not actually pumping blood, it's pumping energy around my body, and there's no way that the blood can travel to every part of my body, so therefore I'm not pumping blood around. Because it's so miraculous. You could use that just to say, well, it can't be possible, because I think that the other issue with people and their view of the world is they believe they know everything. They don't. They're just like very small children in this plane of existence. Not even that. I mean, most people can't make things, and so on. And the only interest they've had in subjects is because they were told how to do them in school. So it's I don't know. It gets quite confusing. There is some good stuff though. I mean, I strongly believe in the hollow earth, and I don't stick to the iron ball theory, because in the past people believed that iron is magnetic and therefore it's the only material that could be in the planet, and that makes sense. And every planet's got an iron core and it's iron, so that's another issue. So if planets had a basically magnetic centre was created, so they've got gravity, then all the planets are basically balls of metal wrapped in rock. I mean, there's possibly different things where it might be more honeycombed. There's a lot of films that be backing this up, and so you got your King Kong film that came out, Skull Island. That was basically suggesting that the planet's honeycombed. That's what they were trying to say. Then you've got Star Trek Discovery recently. They went to Kronos to take out the Klingons, and they got to live in some sort of honeycomb cabin. Wow, they got inner cones and volcanoes, and they were going to use a bomb that's hydrogen based. They're going to chuck water into a volcano and it's going to blow it all up. I don't know if that's it, but take out the planet. I don't think that's true. It's possibly to rationalise with what the viewers understand, because they're not going to talk about red mercury or something, or they can make up an element. But in the future, this element name might be used, so they can't really. It's a kind of problem with stuff like that. And there's some other stuff I come across. Somebody was saying about the pull and the attraction of the planet doesn't quite add up, and that the Earth is likely got different layers in it, and these layers it'll be deeper oceans, which is awesome. You can imagine the adventure of, is there other oceans? I wonder if how involved the Navy are. So we often think about the outer space, but maybe the resources from NASA are going to the inner space, and actually they're looking deeper into the planet. So when someone mentioned about these different, especially your tectonic plates are kind of floating, so somebody says, where's a curve in the water or something? That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. So if something floats on water, it forms a shape. Now I'll explain why I believe in the hollow earth. It's because when you spin anything, when anything moves into sort of going back to density, this point of equilibrium is where you have most emptiness, and then on the outside, where the centrifugal forces are at bay the most, the pull, is where you get the more denser matter. In the same way, and also there's designs in nature, you've got a hollow inside and you've got a harder outside, so you've got an exo, so We don't have like an Indo-planet, which is and what's beautiful as well is it means that other planets out there, they all have this. They all form from the same laws. It's astral nature. That's what it is, or something. Cosmic nature. The nature of the universe. So when you find, like, in this, so if we work with dimensions, okay, dimensional theory. So in nature's designs and patterns and mathematics and geometry is repeated in its other creations. So as I'm going past a lot of trees, they would easily be looking at the shape of bronchioles in your lungs, and your lung branches out. You could be looking at a vascular system. So you could be looking at all sorts of different things that already exist in the natural plane. So basically, there's within a dimension, dimensions are based on platforms. One platform feeds into the other, and then the design improves as it goes along. So nature in itself is built on the design, the platform around it. So for nature, it's the physics of this universe. It may vary in other universes. There may be combinations of atoms and structures that can't exist. I mean, this might be an exclusive dimension that we're living in now. And that's why it's like a bubble. And also bubbles are formed by, if you've got like an air bubble in water. So if you released a gas bubble underwater, it would form a sphere shape, wouldn't it? So what defines something in space? What's creating the sphere shape in space? And it's probably basically quantum field. And I mean, just because it doesn't affect electrically based objects that have a net of like atomic structure, doesn't mean it doesn't have a pull that's as strong as any black hole or whatever people imagine. And the other thing about magnets is the other thing about magnets is that they have a strong attraction to certain things that resonate with the magnet, but other things they don't. But they do usually have some kind of an influence on it. Like the direct magnets and diamagnets don't really get along. So it's like DC and AC and DC. Could be a magnet, actually a diamagnet is an alternating wave current or something. So there's an experiment that was done in space where a water bubble was span in space. It's rotated and the gases in it go to the core, and then heavy objects go to the outer side of the skin of it. I think that beautifully proves that something around that theory, even if people could swallow the idea of it being a big empty space in there may be little sections, caverns and other structures, and it could be water fills in the gaps, and that possibly it's more like a rose in the layers of it. And the tectonic plates are just like the petals of these roses. It's kind of beautiful in my mind. I can see like a water lily, and that kind of opens up. So we're on the outside of the petal, and some of them collapse inwards, so that's where the continents have disappeared. But underneath these continents is other continents, just like the water world, and maybe sections of pockets of air in there and other things, or actually we're quite an unusual being. It might explain why, like the greys have got big black eyes and they look like something that would come out of a lagoon. Highly skin and silicon as well, maybe they observe different pressures. And there's another thing as well, look, beings that exist in high pressure environments tend to be larger. That's why you've got giant squids in the bottom of the ocean and stuff like that. Otherwise the pressure would kill them. You'd imagine they develop to be bigger and stronger to exist in that pressured environment. So going back to the flat earth and it having a religious structure now, people that are indoctrinated say the same spiel. They say, I believe in flat earth. That's how they introduce themselves. You know, they talk about satellites. Do you really think you're linking up to satellites? But there's satellites and cell towers, different things. So I learnt that. I mean, I don't think there's satellites that are picking up all my signals for the use for other things. And then they say, can you feel the earth spinning, or something like that. And to be honest, you can say to them, well, can you feel the blood moving around your body? Or how do you know you're alive? And things like this. Questions. Can you feel electromagnetic changes in the atmosphere? There's a lot you can't feel, basically, because a lot goes on that you're just not able to tap in. So, I mean, you can't do what a bird does and migrate in the same way, because you're just not designed that way. I mean, even now driving in the car, I felt the acceleration, but I mean, can I feel what 30 miles an hour feels like? If it's only blindfolded me, put me in a car, slowly accelerated, and then ask me what speed do you think we're going at? What better to tell them? I could base it on what I could hear, but I couldn't base it on how I felt sat down. And if you could feel the planet spinning around, you might suffer some form of motion sickness. So really, back to the thing about nature, design being designed in your environment, be based on a platform, because you need a kind of a way to operate and to work. You need a way to exist in a form that works with the environment. If you went round and you could sense all this information, you couldn't handle it, you'd be like you have something like Superman, where gets all this information, goes in at once, and he's just screaming in pain. So the world is very different than we believe. And with this idea of outer layers that have come out, like a rose, like petals, it's why things like Himalayas have got, as you know, they found seashells and things up there and stuff. It could be that during the time of the Great Flood, it wasn't an external force affecting the planet, it was an internal one. So you know the way a pine cone pulls all its, when it's wet, it pulls in all its outer bits of it, I don't know what to call them actually, part of the cone, so it shuts itself in. Maybe that's something like that happened to the planet. And what would cause that? So it may be an external force in one way, but it's actually the effects were internal. It's like the planet went to shock. And so it pulling in itself and pressurising itself. It's kind of like a shield. The only problem with that is everything on the outside suffers. And then there's other issues with, like, what the elite are doing, burrowing down. They're burrowing down into new sections. Is there a war inside the planet? You know, where does the actual money go? Because we know, I mean, basically the government might just be quite honest about it, or say nothing. I'm just fed up with stories. And if you look to where all the money's going, so the banks make a massive amount of money. Maybe what they're trying to do is get all the gold in the planet. Why would they want that? What can they do with gold? They can't do much really. You get to a point where I've got all this shiny yellow stuff, but what do I do with it? And if someone says, well, I can't eat gold, gold's got no practical value to me, it doesn't mean anything then. It's only what the elite can trade with each other. But if one of the elite said, well, you know what, I'm not interested in that. I'm only interested in diamonds, or I'm only interested in platinum, or copper, or whatever. So basically, if it's rare, it's valuable. But if someone digs into the planet and finds loads of gold, they're going to devaluate someone else's gold because there's more abundance than they realise. So yeah, that's probably it really on flat Earth and stuff like that. Nothing really else that's come to mind. So have a good day and speak to you soon.